you know of the rebellion against the Empire?
Perhaps you referred to the imminent attack on your rebel fleet.
Where is the rebel base?
I didn't know there was anyone willing to stand up against the Empire.
Hello and welcome to Unmistakably Star Wars and this edition of Rebels Reaction. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Christine.
On this episode, we're reacting to all of Season 3.
All at once.
All at once. So we just wanted to kind of take a look back at Season 3 and give it a final reaction, and then maybe take a little bit of a look forward towards Season 4. We might get more information at Celebration next week.
So exciting.
I'll get to be there.
I won't.
Unfortunately. Choices. Life's hard.
Having children complicates things.
Just a bit.
Wonderfully so.
Wonderfully so. So overall, for the entirety of Season 3, your final one-word reaction.
Okay, it's a hyphenated word. And I'm
You can't
giving
do that.
myself permission because you have done that multiple times. Growing up.
Growing up. Okay. Well, I'll one-up you
Uh-oh.
with one word that says the same thing.
Oh, really?
Maturing.
Oh. Great minds think alike.
Apparently so. Growing up. What do you mean?
Well, obviously, Ezra is aging. So he is physically growing up and getting taller and becoming more of a man.
Yeah, he started the season with a new haircut.
That is true. Big things in the Star Wars universe.
Big things.
So he's growing up not only physically, but emotionally, mentally. He's facing his past. He's facing the present. He's making some poor decisions, but some better ones.
I didn't really notice ghosts coming to visit him at night.
Not like A Christmas Carol.
Oh, that's what it sounded like you were describing.
More emotionally, mentally facing, not actually physically of ghosts coming in.
Well,
Unless you can call Maul sort of a
he kind of acted as
ghost-ish.
a ghost. Yeah.
So Ezra's growing up through this season and becomes a lot more of a emotionally mature person by the end. Sabine grows up a lot and she faces her past, which is a huge sign of maturity.
Yeah.
And Kanan grows through his blindness and becomes more mature in the Force.
Uh-huh.
Hera seems pretty consistent through this season. She's always been pretty solid.
I think we got.
She grows a little.
Well, I think we got more of her personality.
Yeah, more of who she really is.
Yeah, particularly in Hera's Heroes.
Yeah, that's true. And then just
and sorry to interrupt.
that's fine. Keep going.
But Droid. What was the one where Chopper was taking over?
What was it called?
Looking at their nose.
Double Agent Droid.
Yeah, Double Agent Droid. Yeah. So
Yeah.
a little bit more of her personality, and particularly those two episodes. Go
Yeah.
ahead, I interrupted.
And then also story-wise, it's growing up. It was very much a kids show, season 1 and even season 2.
Yeah.
Like it was super fun and I loved it as an adult, but it was definitely obviously a kids show.
Yeah.
And now it feels more like Clone Wars that feels more like an adult show. It feels more heavy, more complex, more higher consequences for their actions and for the situations they get them into. It just feels more of an overall adult story. And then Thrawn is so intense that he adds such a complication, an intense complication to the story, rather than it being the rebels are Hodung going on their way and never have anything hard happen.
Yeah. Yeah, you pretty much explained everything I was thinking with maturing. Yeah, I think Ezra showing both physical and just kind of emotional maturity.
Yeah.
He's still very much a teenager.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's the vacillating he does between trying to listen to Maul throughout the season. We see that progression. We see a progression in other characters towards greater maturity. Like you were just saying, the story overall feels like it's maturing as well. I think mostly in relation to Thrawn. Maul brings in darker elements,
Yeah.
but in terms of overall intensity, that's definitely Thrawn.
Yeah. It jumped up a lot in this since he's become part of this story.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see kind of moving forward into season 4, particularly with some of the story threads that are left at angling at the end of last week's episode, 0 Hour.
Yeah.
How those are developed, and I'll be pretty curious to see, and not super confident that we'll get anything beyond season 4.
Okay.
Probably no season 5 and beyond, but
Because the overall timeline of Star Wars.
yeah, we're starting to bump up pretty close.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but that's not really what the bulk of this show is about. Normally we talk about kind of the big 3 plot points of the episode we're reacting to. Tonight we're going to react, or just kind of point to 3 either story points, plot points across the entirety of the season. So it could be a moment in a particular episode, or it could be an episode as a whole that you really saw as a highlight of the season, and how you reacted to it overall.
Okay.
So we'll each have our own top 3, and there may be similar episodes, there may not be. We don't know.
Okay.
Okay, your number 3.
Oh, I have to do it in order? I was thinking chronologically.
Well, think on the fly. If
Then you go.
If you need a set, communication's important before a show starts. For me, number 3 probably had to be probably Holocron's Fate. I think maybe we should have set qualifiers as far as not the beginning, the very
Define.
first episode and the end, but I think Holocron's Fate really set up the entire season to have a very different tone, and it allowed us to really anticipate what's coming throughout the season.
Yeah.
The first half didn't seem quite as slow as the previous 2 seasons,
Yeah, definitely.
with more sort of filler feeling episodes. But right away we get this indication that Maul is trying to track down Obi-Wan Kenobi. And we know that something with that's going to happen. He's kind of talking about how where he might be, what he saw in the vision, as well as we get a glimpse. We jump right into the immaturity that we see in Ezra throughout season 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And kind of this defiance that he has, and that thread really runs through the entirety of the season, even through Twin Sons.
Yeah.
But we start to see a turning point for him,
Yeah, exactly.
and we're kind of realizing that Maul really maybe not be the best guy
As a guide for him.
yeah, guy to be hanging around. And then the lore of the holocrons.
Yeah, that
and
was super interesting.
all that just kind of adds to the overall story. So I think the episodes that I really saw as some of the better ones, and it's hard to really narrow it to 3 because I felt like
Pretty much all awesome.
the season was very strong.
Yeah.
I don't think I could really point to one episode and say that one stunk.
Yeah.
But they're all enjoyable for their own reasons.
Yeah.
But the ones that I kind of picked on my list are ones that not only further the characterization of the Ghost crew, the story of Rebels itself, but the story of Star Wars
overall,
period.
yeah.
So I think that kind of my top 3 starts with the first episode or mini film of the season with Holocrons of Fate. Number 3 for you.
Okay, number 3 for me. I'm gonna go with Trials of the Dark Saber.
Okay. How come?
Plot wise, as in action, there wasn't a lot of it, but in that episode, it felt to me like it really expanded and, well, not expanded, but got deeper into what it is to engage with the Force and engage with just a Star Wars universe.
Okay.
With watching a Jedi Master train someone who doesn't have the Force, so at least doesn't use the Force.
Yeah.
And then just getting into Sabine's head, hearing more about what happened, seeing more of just the complexity of the family relationships she has and the Mandalorian culture.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like it expanded my understanding of the Star Wars universe. I didn't read any of the EU before this canon, so I don't know that much about Mandalore. Excuse me. And that episode, while adding more to the Ghost crew themselves, added more to my understanding of Star Wars as a whole.
Yeah, I think that was another really strong episode. Didn't make my top 3, but it was really interesting to kind of see the emotional turmoil that Sabine was under.
Yeah.
And how she kind of works through that, through the pushing and prodding that Kanan does throughout the episode.
Yeah.
And then elements of what I thought it kind of funny, the interplay between Kanan and Ezra versus Kanan and Sabine, and the lessons that Kanan had learned working with Ezra.
Yeah, changed the way he interacted with Sabine, for sure.
And the context was different.
Yeah.
But very much taking those opportunities of teaching itself.
Yeah.
And learning from those situations, particularly as teachers ourselves, how you can teach a lesson once, first period, second period, it could be a completely different lesson. The content's still the same,
but the way you present it.
Yeah, and how you interact with those individual students.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that episode as well.
I think on that vein also, something I loved about it was watching him break down the poses with her, and she's like, this is stupid, why am I doing this? And then seeing it come together at the end, and that's actually how you wield it, and how that is how she is able to overcome him in their fight. That was cool for me, partly as a teacher, just seeing how we present the pieces one at a time, but when it comes down to it, they're all part of the bigger picture, and we're always trying to get across the bigger picture, but it's hard to do.
Yeah.
He makes it happen.
Yeah. All right. You go now. Number 2.
Oh no. Okay. My number 2. I'm gonna have to go with, oh no, this is so tough. I was thinking chronologically. I'm gonna go with Hera's Heroes.
Hera's Heroes.
I liked that a lot because partly it brought back things to me from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements.
Yeah, so that was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool seeing Hera in a new light, seeing her backstory, and getting to know who she is. And then also the story expanded for me when I read Lords of the Sith, because it deals a lot with them. So I really enjoyed that episode, and I feel like it added more depth to the wider galaxy for me, because there's the big Star Wars story, there's infinite minor stories, every different person on every different planet, and this showed so much depth to Hera's past, her life, her world, her family, even just the fact that Thrawn recognizes art from her culture
Mhm.
and how significant it is, and how important it is to her, how important it is to her family. Just shows me how much there is to each story. It's not all about the Skywalker story. It's not all about defeating the Death Stars, or it's not all about each different major plot point that we know as Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's so much more to it, and just being able to see so much depth in one minor side story adds just amazing amounts to the Star Wars universe to me.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of depth within that episode, from the perspective of the Syndulas and their kind of their heritage, the interplay of father-daughter,
Yeah.
their the cultural acumen that Thrawn has,
Yeah.
and how we just, that particularly early in the season, really get a feel for how important he sees culture and the influence that plays, and that comes back
Yeah, it comes back and actually helps him.
later in the season. So yeah, a strong episode overall. Number 2 for me, if I could scroll the right way. The end of the end of the season, I felt like just continued to get stronger and stronger, and I really had a hard time choosing between these, for the reasons that I mentioned, kind of how I graded out the episodes. But I'm gonna have to go my number 2 with. I think I'm going to change it as I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
For the reasons that I mentioned, Through Imperial Eyes. I'll go
Okay.
number 2. It didn't add a ton as far as the overall Star Wars story, but I think it added so much depth and was probably, for me, the most intense episode of the entire season.
It was very intense. Seeing Hera flip was crazy.
No, you're thinking
wait.
double agent droid.
Oh, Imperial Eyes. Oh, that's with Callus. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes.
So I think when we reacted to that one initially, we were kind of just both like, we were on the edge of our
What
seats
just
the
happened?
entire
Yeah.
time. Thrawn, at the peak of his game,
Oh yeah.
and the sympathy that the seeds have been planted for sympathy towards Callus.
Yeah.
But it really came out very quickly within that episode.
Yeah.
And the development of his character, and this is really the first, or one of the few, I won't say first, but one of the few episodes that de-emphasizes the role of the Ghost Crew,
Yeah.
because the episode was so much about Callus
Callus, yeah.
and Thrawn,
Yeah.
and
Ezra's actions were kind of a side thing.
yeah, and hence probably the title, Through
Yeah.
Imperial. We're watching
Watching.
the episode and the story of that episode play out through Imperial Eyes.
Yeah.
And I think just great storytelling overall.
Yeah.
The intensity, and I can't really think of a better word, of those situations, and then at the end, just Callus saying, I do better here," and then Thrawn saying, "I know who the..."
Yeah.
It's just
Oh my
like-
gosh, just like, oh, it tears at your heart.
Yeah. And there's redemption in that
Yeah.
later on,
Yeah.
as a result, which I'm thankful for. I'm glad by the end of the season
That he had stayed.
that well, not necessarily that he had stayed. It does a good job of building that story
Yeah.
within 0 Hour,
Mm-hmm.
but it's an idea within Callus surviving and playing a larger role later on,
Yeah.
as opposed to him just kind of being a part of things and then not really, but he just kind of fades away
Yeah.
instead of it really being him shifting his role, which is where it really felt like his story was going, from being the bad guy, bad guy,
Yeah.
to now an ally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That
Okay.
episode, holy cow.
It's a good one.
That was a good one.
All right. Number ones.
Wait, you go first or you want me to go first?
I'll go first
Okay.
since we're
Back and forth.
trading. I'm going to have to go with Twin Suns.
Okay.
Because it maybe didn't add, and this is kind of the opposite. Holocrons of Fate, I felt like, was balanced between adding to the Rebel story and the
Yeah.
Star Wars story overall. Through Imperial Eyes was really about Rebels
Yeah.
itself, but was a super strong episode. Twin Suns wasn't so much about Rebels.
Yeah.
It was about stories outside of Rebels converging within
Yeah, exactly.
its storyline, and then
But major stories.
and I think really big implications for stories outside of
Rebels.
outside of Rebels,
Yeah.
and even outside of stories that have already been told within
Showing there's
within
more
canon.
story going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that whether it's comics, books, movies, whatever it might be, that will, the threads within that story,
Mhm.
within that 25-minute plot,
Yeah.
particularly the interaction between
Obi-Wan and Maul.
Obi-Wan and Maul, and that 5 to 10 minutes, I think
Speaks
have
volumes.
major implications
Yeah.
across the Star Wars story.
Yeah.
So for that, it's my number one. I really struggled between that and Through Imperial Eyes because
Okay.
of the strength of that episode
yeah.
as a standalone story within Rebels. But as we continue to see with the story group, their strength, the strength of the Star Wars story,
Mm-hmm.
high altitude, is the interconnectedness of so many different pieces.
Yeah.
And I'm just loving that,
Mm-hmm.
because we can get pieces here and there, and you can look at things on an individual basis and still really enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
But when they really come together, there's so much strength
Yeah.
within the story itself.
It is. It's such a complex story, and the more threads that come together, it's just so exciting to be a part of.
For sure.
That feels like we're a part of it. Not exactly, but
Kinda. All right, your
Okay.
number one.
my number one is, this is sort of cheating, but Steps into Shadow.
Okay.
The beginning of it all, of the season at least. To me, well, and I'm sure to most, the introduction of who Thrawn really is,
Mm-hmm.
because we saw like a tiny bit last season, but not really. But really seeing him in action just exploded this season for me. It started off on such a great note, and it gave me an understanding of what's to come, and really started off the season showing how different it was going to be.
Yeah.
It gave a very clear picture of, this is not going to be the Rebels you knew. This
Mhm.
is a new, more intense version. And we're getting closer and closer to the big things that we know happened to the Rebels in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
So it was intense on an emotional level because Thrawn's just so crazy. It was intense on a story level because it takes the story we know and runs a different direction and makes it very clear it's taking you there.
Mm-hmm.
It does it in a really exciting and fun way.
Yeah. And we get the introduction of the Bendu,
Yeah.
which is a totally new thing that, again, I think is going to have major implications for the Star Wars story overall.
Yeah. I'm interested to see the idea of there being a middle between light and dark. I'm interested to see how that affects the characterization of Ezra and of Kylo.
Yeah. And Well, and I think Luke,
Yeah, and Luke.
and some of the last words of Darth Maul, asking
He will avenge us.
if Luke will bring.
Oh yeah.
well,
Is the chosen one.
one and will avenge them. Yeah, it's fun. I think that's what makes this kids cartoon so interesting, is those threads that the story individually fits very well together.
Yeah.
And is entertaining.
Tiny little details that add so much complexity to the big story that we know.
Yeah. All right.
So good.
Bottom line. Overall, season 3. Thoughts?
Okay, this is gonna sound petty. I loved it, but I still want to know what happened to Ahsoka. And I'm so mad they didn't say anything through the whole season.
I don't think we'll see Ahsoka in Rebels anymore.
But I watched the end of last season several times to see if it showed her dying, and it shows her walking into the darkness. Doesn't look like she's a ghost, so she's gotta be still alive, or they're just trying to mess with us.
Well, I think there's an element of that, and just kind of stringing us
worst.
along. But I'm fairly certain we won't see any more of her in this animated series. I'm not saying we won't see her again.
Are there rumors, or are you just saying that?
I'm just saying that. That's my perspective
Okay.
and speculation,
Hope so.
or not. That's just an enigma.
They better not just not tell us what happened.
Okay.
There has to be something. I'm gonna hold you accountable if they don't tell us.
It seemed pretty clear that she was done for.
But at the end, you see her walking into the darkness.
It's a kid's show. They're not going to show her bloodied on the ground,
But
cut in
if
half.
they show her walking away and Anakin/Vader walking away,
We'll see.
and they show plenty of people bloodied on the ground.
But not the main characters, not the ones we actually care about.
Okay, sorry.
So that was your thought of all of season 3 was, why didn't you finish the story you were telling in season 2?
Partly. I mean, okay, the season was really good, but I have an unreasonably strong connection, or I guess connection to desire to know what happened to Ahsoka. I don't like the fact they didn't tell us, but this season was awesome, and I really liked Hera in this season. She wasn't all that different, so I don't know why she stands out so much to me, but she was awesome.
Well, I think they worked to develop her character a little bit more.
Yeah.
She was just kind of this almost stoic, but not quite
Mhm.
leader.
Yeah.
Kind of just telling everybody what to do and being secretive because she knew more than everybody else.
Yeah.
But we really get to see her personality, her, even though she's not human, her humanity,
Yeah.
her twi'lekity. I don't know how I would.
Relicness? Or sentientness.
Yes. I'll
Her soul.
stick with personality. Her personality really come out. Yeah, I think there was just a lot of good character development, that growing of characters and the story overall, like we talked about at the beginning. The maturation of all of it.
Mhm.
I think what I enjoyed the most was the characterization of Thrawn and the build-up of his just immense genius and his ability as a tactician throughout the entire season. And then right at the end, the Bendu's like, "You're gonna die."
Yep. See your
And
demise.
just such an ominous end
Yeah.
to Thrawn after and that sudden sense of vulnerability that
Yeah.
he has not had
Ever.
the entire time
Yeah.
we've known him.
Yeah.
So I think there was just such strength within the development of characters overall.
Yeah.
It was a little
Very true.
disappointing that Zeb really kind of took a back seat.
Yeah, he kind of disappeared except when he made a terrible decision and brought that droid to the...
Yeah. So I mean, we didn't get a lot of Zeb, and we got more of almost every other character. getting a little bit of AP5 was fun to see
Yeah.
come back in and out, more so towards the end of the season.
I will say last season we got more of Zeb and less of Sabine. This season it kind of flipped.
Yeah. So, and I think they're playing very different roles as the story progresses. So I think an overall very strong season, a great lead in and lots of story threads to tie on to for season 4.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited to see what's coming, and if we can kind of just continue this momentum and snowball throughout season 4,
That'd be awesome.
I think it's going to continue to strengthen the series overall.
Yeah.
So that wraps up our final reaction for season 3. We'll see what news we get from Celebration next week, and looking forward to season 4. Maybe we'll get some teasings of what happened to Ahsoka. Who knows? Who knows? Dave Filoni knows that's who.
That's true.
Thank you for joining us throughout this season. Thank you for listening, and those of you that comment on the website, we appreciate you so much, Alec. Please be sure to subscribe and rate us on iTunes. All of Unmistakably Star Wars. Be sure to check out our various podcasts and the articles on our website at unmistakably.starwars.com, facebook.com/unmistakably_Star We're on Twitter. Somebody will interact with you there in a moment's notice most of the time. We're at unmistakably_SW. We really enjoyed season 3. We hope you did too. If we were totally off base or you really thought a different episode was stronger, let us know. Twitter's a great place to do that.
There you go.
So for Rebels Reaction and season 3, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Christine.
Until next season, may the Force be with you.